Hi, everyone. Kyle and Keela here from Decise. And Keela, you took on a project that I'm super jealous of. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, you built your own blockchain.
I did.
Awesome. So, can you tell us a little bit about, tell us about how you went about doing this and maybe a little bit about the technology behind it, please.
Yeah. Being in the blockchain space, I've interacted with quite a few companies and individuals who are also in this space. And I started to notice a theme. And that theme was is a lot of people in this space don't know a lot about the space. And what I mean by that is they maybe conceptually know, and see the news information. But when you get down to the fundamentals of it, blockchain is a new enough technology that is evolving enough, that it's kind of hard to understand all the details of it, and just understand all the different nuances. And so that is what prompted me to say, okay, I do conceptually know it. I do know what's going on in the news, but I want to get my hands like right down in it and figure out, exactly the details of how blockchains work, the nuances and the different types. And I think it's really just, best done by getting in and doing it yourself. So I found a guide, because I wanted to understand how blockchains are made, how they're built, not trying to discover a Keela chain, you know,
Hmm.
just find a way to make one myself. I wanted to understand, what is being used out there. And so did find a guide, built it in Python, also using Flask and Postman, and it's actually relatively simple. And but yeah, so it, got it built. Didn't take very long, and now it's gonna just kind of continue to build upon that. I'm not doing it for any particular purpose at this point in time. It's really just to get in, and understand really the details and how a blockchain works and what are all the different variables or nuances that can come into play across different types of blockchains.
Well, I've seen your code and I'm impressed. I definitely want to take on this project myself too. And I think the way that you're describing that matches a mantra, that I've tried to live my career by anyway, and that's this idea of like if you can't whiteboard it, you don't get it. And you're taking it to the next level, which is like if you can't build it, you don't get it. And so I just really commend you for taking on the project. Tell us a little bit about like what have you learned along the way? Like what's been a challenge that you faced, or what surprised you about taking on this kind of project?
Yeah, so learning, my number one takeaway is just the blockchain concept in and of itself is simple and elegant. Um, that the concept of, linking one block with data to the next one using hashes, and that is very straightforward and elegant. And I like the simplicity of it. Where the complexity starts to come in is around, the different consensus algorithms. And what I have found very useful in this exercise is to really have a better appreciation for the different consensus algorithms and what they are doing to the complexity of the blockchain. Why does it slow down? Why are there different restrictions on it? And why do those algorithms really drive the direction that a blockchain is going to go? How does it incentivize a certain use of a blockchain? So, for instance, in like Bitcoin blockchain, you have a consensus algorithm, that it's difficult, but the reason that it is because you don't want it to be extremely easy to be able to mine a block, because a Bitcoin blockchain, the point of it is to create blocks and put currency into circulation. And so, if it's really easy to mine blocks and therefore very easy to generate currency, you have a lot of currency out there. And if you have a lot of something that's out there, the value of it goes down. But what you want to do is drive the value up. And so, you want to restrict. And so, you have to make the ability to mine blocks more restrictive. Um, And so it's just, to me, kind of that main learning is the blockchain concept itself simple and elegant. It's actually the variable components that you can include with the blockchain, such as consensus algorithms, that increase the complexity. And that's really what drives the various different uses or incentives of a particular blockchain.
Okay, so in our last podcast, we did sort of like everything that you want to know about blockchain, and we really tried to break the conversation down so it'd be approachable for
Mm-hmm.
people that aren't in this space. And so you just touched on one facet of that conversation that we talked about before, and that's the idea that blockchain has an implementation of essentially a linear difficulty scoring, which means, if there's two nodes on the blockchain that are trying to drive consensus on an additional block that's been added, it might take 10 minutes. And then if there's 300 million nodes on that blockchain trying to drive consensus, the difficulty is arbitrarily increased as well. So it still takes roughly 10 minutes to add a block to the blockchain. And like what you were saying is that creates some degree of inefficiency and waste. And that model was maybe designed for currency uses where blockchain or Bitcoin in particular has a fixed capacity. 21 million coins will be mined on Bitcoin in its lifespan.
Mm-hmm.
And by nature of it being currency focused, it means that there's always going to be supply and demand pressure so that there's value in the currency. But I know you're not maybe totally set in your thinking on the other scenario, but maybe could you share with us as you tackled this project and you saw opportunities to innovate, like, can you share some of the ideas that you and me were talking about as we were prepping for this conversation about different ways that blockchains can be implemented for different value propositions?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my personal interest in blockchain, what really gets me excited about the technology is the use around smart contracts. And so, that is probably a constant frame of reference that I have when I'm evaluating the blockchain and I'm evaluating, all the different aspects of it. That it's going to be, and it is proving to be difficult to be able to use blockchains for high volume transactions, right? Speed of transaction, the cost of the transaction. So, like in gas fees right now, just fees is
Yeah.
challenging. And so, like when you want to adopt a a very large amount of like smart contracts or high volume transactions. Um, Current implementations of blockchains just make it a struggle. And like I reference back right to Kyle, your example when you're going to buy an NFT or you're going to bid on an NFT. I mean, just the speed of trying to make that happen, it was so slow. Um, and painful. And so right
Totally.
now,
Yeah.
as you look at and you kind of get in and understand how the various blockchains work, and what the decisions around those blockchains were meant to incentivize, it, it, I've just gained a better understanding for, where it is incentivizing. So like you said, on currency, when you are needing to have restraint, and slow down the production of blocks because each block is generating, or putting more currency into circulation, you have to slow it down. And so you are going to have more fees. Those types of those things, you need them in there. But my strong interest is around smart contracts. And so I don't want to slow anything down. I want to validate, I want privacy and security, but I want fast and I want cheap. And so just I think the exercise of really getting in and seeing the mechanics behind the existing systems, and the existing deployments is really useful. And I also think it's really useful for continued innovation, right? Because we can kind of see what is my use case, what am I trying to achieve, and how am I not readily able to do that today with maybe these different types of deployments. So now how can I innovate on that to be able to do things faster, to do things cheaper, but still not, maybe even with more privacy,
Hmm.
uh, and increase security. So to me, that's my interest.
That's really cool. reminds me of like my first, interactions on Bitcoin back many years ago before, it is what it is. Like almost feel guilty for putting stuff on the blockchain that's like little more than like, hi, Keela. And now millions and millions of people drive consensus on stuff that really just, has no value. Um, and so, cool. That's great to kind of draw a distinction between the two, value propositions.
Yeah, but so the interesting thing is if you do want to learn and play with blockchain, you don't have to do it on you don't have to do it on Ethereum. You don't have to do it. You can build your own blockchain and set up nodes with your buddies and run transactions, whether it's a note, hey, how's it going, what do you have for dinner, or create your own non-value, non-traded coin, or NFT, whatever you want. You can create that yourself and learn and do it as a fun pet project, or develop your skills and then be able to be the next generation of innovation in blockchain.
It's cool. Tell us what are the next steps you're thinking for your project, the blockchain you've built?
I'm creating a coin, but but just for fun, not because I'm planning to release it by any means. But I want to learn. I want to understand the nuances. Going to create different types of tokens. Going to and then of course move into smart contracts. And I really want to learn some of the ins and outs. I want to hopefully have some new and creative ideas around smart contracts.
Well, you know what? That's what the founders of Dogecoin said too. Like, we're just going to make this silly little coin, and before you know it, I'm hoping that the Keela coin hits like that too.
Yeah. I mean, I won't be
Cool.
opposed to it.
Yeah.
But
So maybe just tell us in closing, would you recommend a project like this to others?
absolutely. I feel like if you are in this space, and your goal is to be innovative, create new products, be authoritative, be advisory, in it, anyway knowledgeable. One of the best ways to do that is to do it, to build it, um, and it's easy, it's approachable, it's doable. There are guides out there. You don't have to be able to know how to code much to be able to do it. You can figure it out. So I highly recommend get in, understand it. It's going to make you better at what you want to do, at what your goals are around blockchain. And I think it'll just make, a wider group of people more knowledgeable to be able to help influence the innovation, influence the regulation that is rapidly evolving right now.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing your journey with us. If people want to find out more, they can get in on the ground floor at keelacoin.io. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, we'd
I
love to
mean,
talk with you
yes,
more.
but
No, no. We'd love to talk to you more. You can find us at decisive.io. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.
bye.